This is Yuri of Moving Sales Professionals with our another episode of our podcast. We got Dwight Mack with Mack's Moving joining us today. How you doing, Dwight?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Another day in paradise. So we're trying to certainly build it here, trying to make it fun, try to keep it light. Let's get to know Mr. Dwight Mack a little bit. So Mr. Dwight Mack is in Troy, New York, right?
That's what my business is right now, but I'm actually in Florida.
Okay. How does that work?
Pretty much I'm running the business remote. I have a lot of processes in place to have the right people in place to ultimately be able to, not actually be in the day to day.
Okay. Yeah. And that's definitely an awesome thing that all of us as owners want to be is we want to get to the point where we can control the main things in being located somewhere else or being in a remote location and making sure that everything runs like a well-oiled machine. So how do you manage it being remote? Do you have what broad processes do you have in place? What processes do you have recommend for people to have in place to be in
So,
that position?
so I pretty much, I've been a process driven person since I think day one, where I had Microsoft Word on my computer. And it was just like, hey, let me just write out a process, or let me just write out how, maybe if it's one step, two steps, three steps, whatever the case was, just, hey, write out a process, save the document, and then pretty much have something to refer to in the case that you ever have questions or someone else has questions. And initially, when I first started writing out all my processes, I had it on a flash drive, which, oh boy, it's a nightmare there. But
Yeah.
I had it
Yeah.
on a flash drive, and anytime a new employee came in, I kind of like went to their computer. I would put a folder of all the documents that pertain to them on their computer, and hope that they didn't modify anything, because hey, if they left, I got to go back to their computer, delete it, put a new file on their computer for the next person, and it just became a nightmare. So ultimately, I was looking for a platform where I can do it like almost like Google Drive, but have something where, hey, if something needs to be edited on the fly, you can edit it and kind of go from there and create those remote processes that you can kind of edit from anywhere and not slow down the process of the business. So I ended up going with a program called like Train You, which gave me the all the necessary tools I needed to make it a cloud-based system, have report to what you call that, organizational charts and so forth. So that's been working very well.
Okay, great, great. And by the way, if you guys don't know Dwight Mack closely, this is a man that not only can get into the truck or tell somebody else to drive a truck, he could actually explain to you how the truck works to the minor details because this is a man who has an automotive mechanics degree behind him, correct?
Yes, sir. So yes, I love every aspect of cars, trucks, or so like that. And I feel like, you need to work in every position of your business to work your way up to the CEO of your business. Now, maybe if you're not a field person, okay, you maybe need to work a little harder to get all the knowledge you need for that position if you don't want to be in that position. But you need to be able to have the process for everything in that position so that you can work your way out of that position.
Okay. Now, you have that nice sign behind you about how to make $1 million. Can you tell me about that?
Oh, well, that's just my I guess quote or mantra that I like to have on my wall or so like that, just to stay motivated, financially motivated, whether, because we all have our own goals in life. And my goal is to, break the generational curse of where we come from in the struggle at times and be in a better situation so that we can pass it down to our legacy and kind of go from there. So just financial management has always been something that kind of drives me in everything that I kind of do.
Yeah, and that's of course a big thing because it's and it's something that we very much focus here at Moving Sales Professionals as well. We were just talking with Dwight right before this call about that too. Is that how important it is to build your brand? So we are here at Moving Sales Professionals. That's who we want to work with. We want to work with you guys that are serious about building a brand, that are serious about leaving a legacy, serious about giving something to your kids, building something for your family. And that's Dwight is trying to do that, I know, and that's something that I'm certainly working towards. That's our goal. So tell me a little bit. We talked a little bit about your company, and you can tell we didn't talk so much about where you started and how you got to where you are today. So if you could talk about that a little bit.
Oh, sure. So initially, I started at truthfully as a banker, and
Oh
I
wow,
was
a
yeah,
banker, an automotive. It's You have all
yes.
these parallels. Wow.
So, initially going back to when I was in school or so like that, initially I just went to college because, hey, it was a parent's dream. Go to college, get a degree, and, whatever the case was. And it wasn't necessarily meant for me, more or less meant to make my parents happy. And it was one of those things where when I first got my automotive degree, I was like, okay, well, hey, I got it, but really don't want to work in a shop for anyone. Hmm. So so I ended up, working at Target and everything like that. And everything was good for first couple of years or so like that, doing logistics at Target. But then, I ended up going into a finance background. And the finance background, when I first got to the bank, that kind of opened my eyes to financial management and, seeing all of the money that some people have and just like, oh man, I want to be there. And, ultimately, it got to that point where I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, just didn't know what I wanted to do or where there was a demand at. And I was essentially getting kicked out of my apartment because I was essentially getting kicked out of my apartment because the landlord was reselling his house and he wanted us out in 30 days. So I was like, oh, okay, well, where's people getting the last minute help? And I was like, where are people getting the last minute help from? And I don't know. So I was like, you know what? If people are having the same struggle, what if we can help them and get them a little further? So so I ended up pretty much deciding to open a moving company. We got on moving help and we kind of went from there. And that kind of started our whole journey as a mover. And I told my girlfriend at the time, and I told my cousin, I said, "Hey, if it doesn't work out for us, after this first job, hey, we'll go back to our normal 9 to 5 and call it a day." But it actually ended up working out really, really well. And that's kind of like 9 years, 10 years later, here we are. And it's gotten to that point where I became so driven with all of the processes and everything else that I decided to kind of let the movement run itself and focus on other endeavors such as helping other moving company owners
Okay.
and
And that
really,
leads us to uh, Max moving training,
yes.
right?
So
Okay.
yes. So Max Movement Training was formed where basically I knew that I came through a lot of struggles in the 9 years. I was glad to meet guys like Lorne. I was glad to meet guys like Eric Works, Wade on Swakel, and a lot of other big moving company owners because those guys allow with that network, it allowed me to grow out of the stump that I was in. So with all of the processes and everything that I built around that, it was just like, okay, hey, other moving company owners need the same help. I went to a New York State conference not too long ago, I think last year, and the state didn't really care if moving company owners were out of business or they were in business. They only cared for themselves, and it kind of got me so furious because I'm like, well, these guys need help somewhere. They need help being compliant. They need help somewhere, and you're just kind of giving up on them. And they didn't really care. It was just like, hey, I was just that guy in the room just voicing my opinion. And I was just like, you know what? There's got to be a better way. So if I can help people get more efficient in their systems and be better, then hey, that's the least I can do for them. And I just got to get my name out there.
Yeah, and that's basically the same thing that we're doing. Granted, we're doing it more on a sales side. So basically, anybody that that works with us um, basically have free access to all the information that I've personally accumulated in 20 plus years in the moving industry. So I'm more than willing to help. I'm more than willing to provide advice, and this is and that stuff. Realistically, for my clients, it's free. I have no problem helping because ultimately, of course, I have ulterior motive. if my information, if what I know helps you grow your business, you give me more of your business. So, obviously that's something that I'm very much interested in. So I want all the clients that are here that work with us, we want them to grow. We want them to
Yeah.
grow and we want to be there to help them grow.
Yeah, and one of the things I found about a lot of moving company owners is that one day a lot of them don't have time for training. And that was a big thing for me where it was like, okay, hey, there's areas for improvement. Most moving company owners, hey, they bring on a new mover, a new driver, whatever the case is, and their goal is, hey, let's throw them on the truck the first day, because we need them right now. Let's throw them on the truck. Let's see how they do. You know what? Maybe I'll just have them on boxes, and we'll have my experienced guys on the furniture, whatever the case is. And it's just like the pressure that mover is under, if he's never done moving or so, he's under a lot of pressure because he's like, I gotta, what do you call it? I gotta impress. I gotta, go up and beyond so the other guys like me or whatever the case is. And that could sometimes cause somebody to cause damage.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like, well, hey, what if you had a training program where you could maybe have them sit in front of a computer or even on their mobile device, go through a training for 1 to 2 days, even 3 days if you need it, do a little warehouse training with them, let them lift your mock furniture versus the customer furniture, and then like introduce them to the process. But either some owners may not have the time to build out this program, or two,
I remember one specific company. Now, unfortunately, right now, the name escapes me, but there was one company that specifically said, and it could have been Firehouse Movers. I'm not 100% sure. So if the owner of the Firehouse Movers hears me and I'm wrong, I'm sorry. But it was a big enough company, and what they did, they actually had like a whole separate room or even separate part of the warehouse that was
mhm,
basically inside built like a person's house,
nice.
and they were using with everything that you would imagine in there that should be in the person's house, right? And they had that built out for that particular purpose to train their people. They would have those new trainees in there moving it as if they were doing an actual move. They would have them pack it. They would have them do everything, and they would use that for training purposes. So yeah, I thought once again, I don't remember who it was, but I thought it was a very, very cool thing in terms of in terms of training and getting that process right. Because yeah, certainly on one side, some companies say, well, they'll learn on the job, but realistically, you don't want them to. There's certain things you don't want them to learn on the job. You want
Hmm.
them to know when they get there, because once again, if a mover doesn't know what they're doing, the problem is that even the client who has no clue about what's going on, it's pretty obvious when a person is in shambles and it's written all over their place that they're way over their head.
Exactly. And hey, if it rolls over to the movers, it can roll over to the sales team. Some owners are so
Absolutely.
busy and they're on the truck that, hey, who's training your sales staff if you don't have sales training in place?
Right. And that's why you call us and we'll take care of that all of that for you. And you don't have to worry about hiring another sales person ever again. This is what we do. That let us handle it. But it's been a pleasure having you on, Dwight. Truly,
Definitely.
we definitely going to have to connect on this again. Of course, we've collaborated recently, but we're going to need to do this again in the future, 100%. So once again, this is Yuri with Moving Sales Professionals. The world moves on its own. Let the professionals move yours. So once again, thank you for joining us for our podcast. Please like, please subscribe, please check out Dwight's podcast and his videos as well. Please like and subscribe his stuff as well. There's going to be links that are going to be added below our podcast here. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you soon.
All right, y'all.
Thank you.